Welcome back to the NJ1ST podcast. My name is Ryan McDonald. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this video, and leave a comment. It'll help with the algorithm. But be sure also to follow over on Rumble. This YouTube channel is bound to be banned at some time, just like I was taken off of Facebook with over 15,000 followers. My personal YouTube channel got some strikes, so you know how YouTube's going these days. At least they're now allowing us to talk about the election and certain vaxes. They've now turned around their policy on that, I believe. But go over to Rumble, follow the NJ1ST podcast over there, as well as all social medias at Ryan McDonald USA and at NJ1ST. If you're a web creator, if you know someone in the skills of content creation, I'm looking to network with people and collab with them. I have NJ1ST.com. Going to try and expand that coming up. Today's video is going to go into the NJ parents groups that are rising in New Jersey, fighting back at the Board of Ed levels. I've been reporting on them with previous NJ1ST podcast episodes, and this one's going to show Fox News finally picked up on the leader of the NJ project, the New Jersey project. We'll look into that right now, trouble with schools.
Jersey is suing 3 school districts over transgender policies. The district moved to require school faculty to notify parents in the event their child identifies with different pronouns. But the state's attorney general calls this discriminatory, saying if the policies, quote, will harm kids and pose severe risk to their safety if they go into effect, the state is going to step in and ensure these policies do not take effect. Our next guest put her kids in private school over the Garden State's woke agenda and advocates for parental rights and education. New Jersey Project founder Nikki Stouffer joins us now. Nikki, I'm glad to have you on the program. I understand you do not have kids in the 3 districts we are mentioning, but you've already been through this personal calculation on your own. What do you know about the parents in these 3 districts? What do you know about this effort that now the Attorney General is stopping for parents to be involved and knowing what's going on with their kids in the school district?
Well, the New Jersey Project is actually a quite large number of parents that have banded together because of what Murphy did during the pandemic. He not only masked and tortured our children in public school, but he extended that to private school. So all of these ridiculous mandates that he do could absolutely show up in your private school at any time. And the parents from these districts are wild because here at the New Jersey Project, we went through a lot of trouble. We have a lot of parents. We elected 151 board members in 85 districts to New Jersey schools to enact what we wanted. This is what we want. We want transparency with the school. Our children are safer when we know more about what's happening in school. Why in the world would the AG and Murphy think that it would be appropriate to hide any sort of information from parents?
Right.
That we are monsters and we would only hurt our kids if we found out that they were being bullied and at risk for suicide for being.
For the audience to share with them what the Attorney General, because what you're saying is it's safer for parents to know what's happening with their children, which seems fairly rational and intuitive. The New Jersey Attorney General is saying we will not tolerate any action by schools that threatens health and safety of our young people. And without question, the discriminatory policies passed by these boards, if they go into effect, will impose severe harm on our kids. They're saying letting parents know what's happening is a threat to kids.
He thinks we're monsters. He thinks that we would torture our kids. We would never torture our kids. We were trying to get the masks off for 2 years because he tortures our kids. And now that he is losing control of his school boards because we're getting people elected, fighting the NJEA, getting our parents in to make these kinds of changes, he's going to use the AG to make sure that we can't do these things. You know, he has waged war on parents and children for 3 years.
It's an easy ask for everyone watching. Is it safer for you to know what's happening with your kids or a bigger risk to be in the closet? Thank you so much for being with us, Nikki.
Now, if you're on social media at all, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know that the New Jersey Project and Nikki and a bunch of other parents are pushing out the content, showing what's actually in these books, what these parents are pushing back against in the curriculums, showing the left and the Democrats, their organizing of the librarians and the Democrat LGBT activists coming together and, you know, really pushing the LGBT political indoctrination onto the youth. They really want it ingrained in the society. It's Pride Month after all. And this shows parents banding together. And to be honest, this is what got me hooked into New Jersey state politics, people getting involved and active like this on the right wing. if you want to call it the right wing, as opposed to the left wing, if that's just how we're going to classify these things. This is a parent. It's not a Republican entrenched politician. Maybe a Republican voter, maybe a Democrat voter, maybe votes 50-50. A lot of parents are like that. A lot of people in New Jersey are like that. But the Republicans need to do a better job of standing up and attacking the Democrats. A lot of them have gone along with this just to get reelected. And finally, we have parents who get elected to the Board of Ed. Unfortunately, Josh Akins didn't get in the assembly position because he was the head of the Rise New Jersey who helped parents get in the Board of Ed positions. And, we just need stronger leadership in New Jersey. A video shared on New Jersey Project's Instagram is of Legislative District 11 Senate Republican candidate Steve Dinistrian, and it's a good video I'm going to play in a second. However, Legislative District 11 Senator is a Democrat. It's Gopal, right? Vin Gopal. But the two Assembly Republicans are Assembly women. They are Papirno and Yulner. And we'll get into that in a second. But first, let's listen to Steve Dinistrian, who I've seen in the primary. He didn't even have a Republican contender, but throughout the primary, he was on the ground, knocking on doors, campaigning, interacting with the public. And now he's headed towards the general election in November against Vin Gopal. And Vin Gopal has a lot of Democrats who don't want him reelected. So let's see how Steve Dinistrian is going to fare against him.
With parents, it's this. They want more of a say of what's going on in our schools. Murphy administration filed a lawsuit today against the boards of education of Manalapan, Middletown, and Marlborough. And those boards recently voted to allow for parents to be notified should children approach teachers and staff members with questions about gender and sexual identity. The Murphy administration is suing to prevent that. In other words, suing so that parents are not part of that discussion. And those discussions are just kept in the context of the school, between school officials and the children. Parents need to be involved with any and all discussions relative to their kids' health and well-being. This is a bigger, broader topic, but always parents have the right to be involved in those discussions and should be involved in those discussions. That's my position. To be very clear, this is going to be a big issue over the months to come.
And that's a good position to have for Steve Dinistrian, as he's a Republican candidate for LD11. But just back on the Papirno and Yulner, who are the LD11 Assembly Republicans, Steve Dinistrian is going to be a Senate Republican. And for Papirno and Yulner, I'd be shamed if I didn't mention that they have a lobbyist problem with the GSE, the Garden State Equality, headed up by Christian Fusciano, I believe. And I know Garden State Equality from indoctrinating American political youth ever since 2012 when I had, or 2013 or 14, when I had a professor who founded the organization. And I learned about it there. And quickly after that, I found out how political they are and how, seeping into the curriculum of K through 12, the cultural Marxism that we speak about so much and now is publicly accepted to speak about. Thank goodness. I remember 10 years ago you couldn't. But now this is Christian Fusciano here, and it is from Trenton News Network, who claims that we have to be careful of Papirno and Yulner, the Legislative 11 Assembly Republicans. If this one is Yulner or Papirno, I don't know. She was here at the parental rights rally that I made a speech at. She was there just to support Beth Sawyer, if you ask me. There was a whole political aspect to that. But here we have posted from Trenton News Network that he suspects Steve Dinistrian's running mates, Papirno and Yulner, supported this group. He claims that they financially supported them. I'm not sure. We got to find out. We got to find those receipts. On the far left, your running mates are have a very cozy relationship with Christian Fuscarino, the executive director of Garden State Equality. And that is what really is stressing the point, is the relationship that they have with this organization that is so political towards children. It wasn't that way before, but now they are finding themselves having to support this far left LGBT indoctrination. They weren't like that before. It was just about marriages, right? Gay marriages, and then the slippery slope from there. Trenton News Network says that Steve Dinistrian seems like a very nice guy and well-spoken. I hope he knows that his running mates, Papirno and Ullner, wrote checks to Garden State Equality. His chair, Golden, wrote checks too. Where's the checks? Show us some checks.
It starts by cleaning out the back room. It starts by showing the voters in New Jersey that the Republican Party is different, that the Republican Party is willing to stand up for the tough fights, willing to stand up against Garden State Equality. My goodness, you've got two members of the Assembly in Monmouth County who are eager to work with Garden State Equality. And they literally to the point where they are partners with them emotionally on everything because they're so afraid of being picked on and being called a bigot. They are willing to ignore the fact that Garden State Equality was directly involved in the sexualization of our kids.
To finish up this episode of the NJ1ST podcast, I'm going to show 5 2-minute testimonies on Save the Whales, New Jersey, the East Coast, the oceans, Save Our Oceans. Here, I'll link in the description of this video is a new Substack I've come across, rescue.substack.com, with Michael Capuzzo. It's Linda Bonvie. Linda Bonvie. She's an investigative journalist. Looks like this is the article, maybe posted by the Substack with Michael Capuzzo. But regardless, it goes through step by step from beginning of the issue that they're having with the whales washing up on shore from morning of December 10th, 2022. And it's gotten just ever so worse ever since then.
My name's Bob Stern. I'm currently heading the organization called Save Long Beach Island, Incorporated. As you can tell from the name, we have a few issues with the offshore wind project, but I do not intend to go through all of them. In a former life, I used to manage the environmental review process for the Energy Department in Washington. So I think I have a good sense of when I see environmental impacts presented to us and when I do not. The hardest part of that job was to find out what is not being presented to you and search it out. In that vein, I just want to share with you some new issues that have arisen over the course of the last year and in our recent review of the draft environmental impact statement, which we had the pleasure of reviewing in the last 45 days, about 6,000 pages. One of those issues is the operational noise impact from these turbines. You probably have heard about noise from pile driving of the foundations into the seabed, which is certainly an issue. But the new turbines of today, the 15 megawatt turbines, as opposed to the 8 megawatt turbines of yesterday, pose a very significant noise impact when they operate. And we have done some estimates and have that confirmed by an acoustics company that we hired, that those noise levels will extend out on the order of 65 miles from the wind complex at levels which it is said disturbs the whales' behavior when they try to migrate. Coupled with the development that we expect further out in the Hudson South area, we believe you are looking at an existential threat to the existence of the North Atlantic right whale. And I'm trying not to exaggerate here, but I am trying to be direct so that you understand some of the implications of these projects. This issue was raised to the BOEM people a year ago. We asked them to do their own analysis of it. We have received nothing in the draft environmental impact statement. The only thing they say is something to the effect like, oh, well, the noise levels from the larger turbines will be higher than the smaller turbines. That,
Thank
in
you,
our view,
Dr. Stern.
is
If you could just wrap it up because your time is up.
Okay, there are other issues regarding navigation safety. Because of this unique situation where we have projects close in and further out, all of the military and commercial vessel traffic coming up the East Coast is going to have to be channeled between those two areas. This creates a significant navigation risk, and there are many other issues that I believe you should be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Michael Dean. So I'm here to provide testimony on Bill 5651, as stated in today's agenda. It concerns treatment of the federal tax benefits for certain qualified offshore wind projects. I'm going to focus. I know we're short on time. I'll submit these to the record, but I'll focus primarily on the costs to these projects to New Jersey residents and ratepayers, and the impact of 5651 in reallocating costs or reallocating funds from New Jersey ratepayers to Ørsted and the other offshore wind developers that are planning to construct power plants off the coast of New Jersey. I think it's, before we get into specifics on the costs, I think it's important for everybody to realize, because it often gets lost in this discussion, that the residents of New Jersey and the ratepayers are the ones funding this entire project, all of these entire projects. It doesn't come from the federal fisc. It doesn't come from the companies themselves. It doesn't come from, the state tax base. It comes from ratepayers. They are monetizing our future electricity payments to pay for all of these projects. Essentially, anybody that turns on, flips a switch, plugs a phone in, plugs their car in, we're the ones that are funding these projects. And it's a lot of money that's been committed of ours to these projects already. I know, as I said, we're short on time, but the mechanism to pay for these is an ORIC mechanism, which allocates those payments to the developers, and the funding mechanism actually requires the cost to be offset by any state or federal tax credits. So that's in the law, and that's what's being changed here today. So to date, we've had essentially $16 billion of future ratepayer payments in New Jersey allocated to the projects. There's 3 contracts in place. Ørsted has 2 of them, with Ocean Wind 1 and 2. Atlantic Shores has another one. They're attempting to change the allocation mechanism of the tax credits that have passed since they've signed those contracts, to give it to Ørsted out of the pockets of New Jersey ratepayers.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Can you just wrap it up because your 2 minutes are up?
Yeah, I would like to say, I think an inconvenient fact in this is, electricity rates are regressive. That is, the higher rates hit the lowest income residents the hardest. These include the working poor, blue collar, middle class, seniors on fixed income. So higher rates, we're all going to pay much, much higher rates, magnitudes of 4 to 5 times. The more power, offshore wind power we add, that's only going to add to this. To turn to a company that signed a contract to agree to provide power that is already above market rates that we're paying for, and to give them another windfall is not something I don't think anybody here signed on for. I don't think anybody here was campaigning on that. And I think, the harms and costs put upon the very citizens these projects are supposed to benefit, they need to be exposed, and they need to be brought into the sunlight. So, I ask that, and I urge you to vote no on this bill. I'm not even sure why it's in the budget hearing. I don't see how it's actually even passed through. It's not state revenue. It's federal revenue going to ratepayers that is being asked to be reallocated to a corporation. It never touches the state coffers. So I'll end there, and I'll leave that up to the lawyers to figure out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. NIST, you have your 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Assembly people, Chair. I don't have a view from my house of sand dunes and a beautiful ocean. I come from the farm fields and forests of Burlington County. So I may look at this more as a taxpayer than as a homeowner at the beach. As you know, Ørsted, the builder of these wind farms, has said now that the money that they are making now is not enough to the contract that they agreed to. It seems Ørsted is falling behind, apparently enough for the head of the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, Joseph Fiordalazio, to admonish them weeks ago. He went as far as to say if things didn't speed up, they're going to have serious discussions. Well, those serious discussions seem to be that the Murphy administration, with their allies in the legislature in and out, wanted to let them off the hook and have us pay more for this. Is this any way to do business? The New Jersey state legislature voted that tax subsidies that were part of the Inflation Reduction Act as a way to ease the transition to renewables to be returned to the ratepayers. Now you want to pass a bill to take that away and give it to Ørsted. Ørsted blames supply chain and inflation woes. We're all suffering from inflations. And one could say the spending bills like the Inflation Reduction Act has added to inflation. Now you want to increase the cost to New Jersey taxpayer. We don't even know what the rates will be. The New Jersey Ratepayer Advocate Division of Ratepayer Council, from last I heard, it hasn't even come up with a number. And where did this come from? Good intentions? History is littered with good intentions gone wrong. Then you throw in the odious money changing that's part of New Jersey charm. One last thing. It's an election year, and I wonder who on this committee and in this legislature is going to tell their constituents that we voted for higher energy costs. Vote no on 5651 and avoid doing that. Let Ørsted find their own money. Thank you.
I usually came here as a former president of the New Jersey Association for Justice. I've spent my entire career protecting the environment. If you read and I usually stand next to David Pringle, but if you read the environmental impact statement, and I urge you to do it before you vote, you will see that this is not in the best interest of the state of New Jersey. There's actually a section in the environmental impact statement that talks about the unavoidable consequences to the environment of building these turbines. They say at the outright, in the beginning, that it will change our economy forever. It will take away income from the marine industries that they say, quote, is irretrievable. They say there will be an impact to the historic properties of the state of New Jersey that is unavoidable. They say there will be 27 historic properties that they list on Appendix A6 that will be damaged. They say recreation and tourism in the state of New Jersey will be unavoidable. Turbines will alter the environment and the marine coastal fishing, sailing, boating during operation, which will be unavoidable. That's their words. Then they go to pollution. They say, under unavoidable, there will be accidental releases during the construction and operation. It may cause temporary closure of beaches. It will cause fluids, hazardous materials, trash, debris, construction, all during operation and maintenance. This is in the draft environmental impact statement. You need to read it. It talks about it affecting air quality. It talks about compounding health issues of the local environmental injustice communities. It talks about emissions in the landfills in Monmouth and Atlantic counties. It talks about the problems created for security and navigation and national security. And it actually talks about, you see a lot of debate in the news about mammals and what's going to happen. It says, well, one of the unavoidable impacts here is that marine mammals and birds will die. And then when you look at the overall rate of return, when we did our study, $16.13 billion is being dedicated. The Ørsted already has a 19 to 20% rate of return, and the average BPU approved utility in the state is 9%. So I'm going to wrap up because I see you're looking at me.
Thank you very much, yes.
But what I'm going to ask you to do, please before you vote on this, have your staff look at the environmental impact statement. Look at the Atlantic Shore's own report where they say they will change the character and the quality of the Jersey Shore forever. And this is our only opportunity to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Paul Knitra from Point Pleasant Beach. Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, thank you so much for being here. I can't believe that I have to be here. I'm the mayor of a 4,500 person town, 1.5 square miles, and you guys are about to spend more taxpayer money on giving an international corporation who can't manage their own budget the ability to come in and destroy my town and the Jersey Shore and our entire tourism economy. I mean, the own paperwork says 15% drop in tourism. Your colleagues downstairs are considering pulling the bill or amending it right now, Democrats and Republicans, because they see the problems with it. Support for this is cratering. 46% of your constituents across the state don't believe in this project anymore because of what it's going to do to the last pristine vista that we have left in New Jersey. Only 22% support it when they know about what's going on with the whales and the dolphins. This is a travesty. This bill, Ørsted, the sole owner of Ocean Wind 1 after PSEG divested earlier this year, is actually Danish oil and natural gas. They have a history of financial challenges. Back in the early 2010s, Danish oil and gas relied on Goldman Sachs to ensure financial security in a quickly evolving energy landscape. Relying on private equity is one tactic, but for now, Ørsted has to rely on taxpayer-funded tax incentives and credits. It's unthinkable, particularly when those taxpayers have struggled through the same challenges. This bill permits Ørsted to stack 30% of credits with additional credits for meeting domestic content thresholds and locating facilities in fossil fuel-dependent communities. Additional credits in the name of environmental justice are also available for projects under 5 megawatts, which awards 10% for locating facilities in low-income communities and on tribal lands, respectively, and 20% for locating facilities as part of a low-income residential building project and as part of the low-income economic benefit project. Beyond these concerns, we do not have a fiscal impact or estimate of the potential impact of these credits. The taxpayers and ratepayers have already subsidized $250 million for the Paulsboro wind manufacturing facility, $637 million for the wind port in Salem, and $4.5 billion for Ocean Wind Number 1. Ocean Wind Number 2 and Atlantic Shores have each been further subsidized with $4.26 billion and $7.37 billion, respectively. What we do know is that ratepayers will be paying an additional $98.10 per megawatt per month in OREX for the first year of operation of Ocean Wind 1. The assumption is that OREX costs will eventually levelize, but applying Ørsted's own theory of surging over inflation, the average New Jersey ratepayer could be on the hook for much more over the cost of their 20-year lease. Particularly, is this just for one project out of the 11 lease areas off of our coast. Now, absent fiscal impact or estimates of the bill, the Heritage Foundation estimates a financial burden of $8,000 per resident. A fellow at the Manhattan Institute estimates that the average residential ratepayer will have to pay over $200 to Ørsted, in addition to above-market costs of electricity generation and backup generation, and to convert to electric vehicles and appliances. Enough is enough. I know some of you have doubts. I'm asking you to stop putting special interests and campaign donors over New Jersey residents. Stop doing the bidding with this tailor-made bill that we all know Ørsted wrote themselves. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mayor.